Bad enough that coronavirus anxieties complicate everyday life. Worse yet, when those anxieties become the stuff of dreams. Our cover story is reported by Susan Spencer.
Poet Jackie Wang fills her quarantine days with the peaceful sound of her harp, but her dreams at night tell a different story.
I had an airplane dream where we were flying into a dark cloud, and I was like, oh no, this plane needs to be grounded. This is not good.
Well, there's a metaphor.
Yeah, exactly.
Metaphors fill the pages of her dream journal, which these days reads like a psychological thriller.
I dreamed that someone dreamed of a dead person on a gurney.
Can you summarize for me the general impact you feel that the pandemic has had on your dreams?
It's made my dreams more vivid, and I've been having dreams with recurring apocalypse and economic desperation.
And then there is this familiar theme.
I had a dream that I was preparing for my wedding, but I had huge cases of toilet paper.
Can't be too careful.
Exactly.
From toilet paper nightmares to tidal waves consuming New York. These days, reports of bizarre, pandemic-driven dreams are everywhere.
I dreamed that I had to do my show, but I had to do it someplace where no one could find me.
Most people who are a little chronically sleep deprived are staying at home and not going into work at their usual time.
The longer you sleep, the more likely you are to dream.
Yes.
Harvard psychologist Deirdre Barrett studied dreams after 9/11 and is now collecting pandemic dreams, more than 6,000 so far.
The single takeaway right now from the survey is that the world's dreams are more anxious than at normal periods in time.
And less literal than dreams after 9/11.
I see fewer dreams overtly about the pandemic than people who dreamed about the buildings falling down or the planes crashing into them, and somewhat more metaphors. And I think that is because the virus is a kind of invisible menace.
One popular image.
I've seen just dozens of every kind of bug you can imagine. Flying swarms are racing at the dreamer, grasshoppers with vampire fangs. And I think it's partly because we use the word bug as slang for I've got a bug means I've got a virus.
What's the most outlandish dream you've heard so far?
The most outlandish scary dream was where Oprah was rounding up people to be her audience, and her henchmen were imprisoning them in a giant warehouse that had mattresses spaced 6 feet apart. And then at the end of the dream, Oprah bursts into the warehouse, ready to do her show, and kind of in showbiz style, she says, some of our guests today are getting a very big surprise. And she pulls out a chainsaw and comes at the dreamer.
That's a good one.
Unlike the nightmare of a chainsaw-wielding Oprah, some pandemic dreams simply reflect reality.
I've had a couple of dreams where everybody is in little Zoom boxes.
That's how everybody feels right about now. We're living in Zoom boxes.
Artist Sandra Haynes had one spectacular dream, now part of the Harvard study. She was an antibody, a superhero fighting off the virus, which took the form of a ferocious dog.
So what I did is I grabbed the leash of the dog and I was like spinning it around over my head.
This is very dramatic.
Right, it is. It's very dramatic.
The Egyptians thought dreams were messages from the gods. The Greeks saw them as visits from the dead. And Sigmund Freud was sure dreams involved sex.
Why do we dream?
No one knows for sure. But what seems to be the case is that during REM sleep, the part of our sleep where we mostly dream, this is when our memories get consolidated.
Mississippi State University psychology professor Michael Nadorff focuses less on the meaning of dreams and more on how we can control them, especially the scary ones.
So this is the cool thing. There's a treatment called imagery rehearsal therapy. We take the dream you have and we tell you to change it any way you want. And then we want you to practice it using visual imagery for about twice a day, about 10 minutes each time. And a good number of people actually start having that new dream that they created.
Nadorff says it worked with one client whose father had passed away before his grandchildren were born.
And he said, I really would love to have a dream where I'm going to the park and I'm taking my kids and my dad's there and he gets to see them playing and gets to meet my kids. So we gave it a try. And the very next session, he comes in and just tells me, in tears, I had that new dream and it's just so meaningful.
Are you worried about people's general mental health because of these dreams we're having?
No, I think people are having, for the most part, very healthy, normal reactions to this situation.
With one exception, says Professor Barrett.
The healthcare workers are having just full on post traumatic nightmares. There was one Italian anesthesiologist who was trying to intubate somebody in a dream, and he fell backwards out of the window of the hospital, clutching the patient with him as he fell, and he landed on the ground okay, and the patient was decapitated. So
Ooh.
She says for those suffering PTSD, counseling may be needed. As for the rest of us, like Jackie Wang,
Do you see your dreams as some sort of coping mechanism?
I think that it's a coping mechanism that you don't actually ask for. When I'm asleep, everything that I've bottled up kind of comes spilling out.